Namo Tassa. In this video, I just want to touch a little bit on what we could call the right practice. Again, that relates to some things that I posted today, some quotes, and try to make it not too long, but to give a specific hint about what you can consider the proper practice. And one quote that I put early on today is about saying that everything begins in your mind and ends in your mind. So anyone who practices the Dhamma seriously can be free from suffering. Again, everything, of course, is always in the mind. You still have a body, of course, and they are connected. They are really in relation, and they both affect each other. But still, at the end, and if you have some awareness of paticca samuppada, dependent origination, you understand, of course, that everything started with the mind, the ignorance and the consciousness, and thus the mind and then the body. It's actually, as you can understand, maybe just a condensation of energy. And exactly as it is explained, and if you go further in on the path, and higher in the jhanas, in concentration, discovering really the nature and the way the jhanas are explained or defined. And the point of progressing on the path really and reaching Nibbana is exactly backtracking the dependent origination. It's exactly going back paticca samuppada. And the same way exactly as the Buddha has given those instructions for understanding properly the whole thing and actually the proper practice. And that is through the Four Noble Truths, Ariya Satya. So the point is that you understand the nature of suffering inherent to our existence. Then you understand the cause of the suffering. Once you understand the cause, of course you can find the way to end that suffering if you are really aware of the cause and you know how to deal with the cause. And then it gives exactly that path leading to the end of suffering at the end as the number 4, which is the Eightfold Noble Path. And that is actually part of the proper practice. So in the same way, as you go higher and higher in the jhanas, deeper and deeper in concentration, you go from the gross level of sensations at the base when you start meditating to subtler and subtler vibration, subtler and subtler sensation, vedanas, and you can experience banga jnana. Then it becomes really only subtle vibrations. You understand already the nature of the body, which is only vibrations. Atoms are just vibrating energies, and they become only subtler and subtler, and just that. And then after that, if you go into the arupa jhanas, then you separate from the body, and then it's only the mind. That's why it's arupa, non-material. And then again it goes into expansion, expanding space, expanding consciousness, and then more and more like this subtle to the infinite nibbana. So in that sense, that exactly relates to and explain already what happened originally when there was just energy and it keeps gathering and gathering, getting condensed, and it out of ignorance and then it creates a consciousness, and then actually creates a mind, the mind even more concentrated, like self-centered, exactly, with that ego. Atta wants to have a body, and then it creates a material body after the mind, and then the senses, and then all the senses connected to all the Vedanas for the sensations, and then the emotions in the mind. And then it gets all more and more complicated, and more dense, more and more gross. And that's why I meant it's the same with a city. A city is a concentration of dark, heavy, negative energy, because it's all that. And of course, meditation and going higher and higher in the jhanas, or deeper and deeper in concentration in meditation, is the opposite. It's becoming lighter, more open to the infinite, to the universe scale. Anyway, so the proper practice like that, and many people won't understand really why when they practice meditation it doesn't really work the way they think it should, of course. But it's the same again. They think they know, and not to mention again those people again with a big ego who think they want to change and do something about themselves and practice meditation, but then they come and tell you how you should teach them and what is good for them, what works for them or not, right? This doesn't work for me. Well, if they know already better, then here is the answer why actually they can progress, and why it will stay the same. But one other quote that was there is if you have a good eye, good sight, and you are walking on a trail, on a path, and you see some really uneven areas with holes, you will try to avoid the holes, right? You will try to avoid the difficult, the negative part. So in the same way, a wise person will try to avoid like evil and bad mind and negative mind and intentions. So in that sense also, that relates to the advice of the Buddha. And so before I mentioned a lot about the right mindset already to be a real Dhamma person, and so to help you in your life and to progress on the path, to become a Dhamma person in everyday life, not only when you sit in meditation and when you go to the monk and bow like this. Then you have to put it in practice every day. And the Buddha gives the Eightfold Noble Path, and it starts again in the mind, and you have to have again that proper understanding, so you have to have a bit of wisdom that way. Like I said, a wise person will avoid the negativity and to be driven by the ego, the me, and poor me, and feel sorry for yourself, and complain, and why, or being angry also, again, it's actually the nature of many people. They think they are Dhamma people, but they are still very emotional, and they don't control their mind, and they anger. So most people are addicted to anger actually, because the ego make them feel righteous, right? Or the victim, the big victim thing, addiction to drama. It's always easier to blame others or to blame the life instead of looking objectively at yourself and what is wrong with you, with that way of thinking, of being. But if you can break free from the addiction to anger, which is not easy, it's a very important step for personal growth, right? And for healthy relationship after with everyone. So you need to have this kind of empathy, or metta and mudita instead of the ego, and understanding for whatever happens outside, and then thinking about solution, and with your own behavior and attitude instead of blaming and complaining. So in that sense, the first, of course, of the 8 is the right view like this, and from that also the right thinking, the right intention that way, number 2. And of course from the right intention, then you have the right wording, the right speaking, the right speech, and it's the same. And then the right actions, again, like I said, right now with those different things. And then the right livelihood, again, depending what you do in your life. And of course after that, you need to make the effort again. Many people, what I mean in general is that they think they are good Buddhist, or they mean to be a good Dhamma people, but actually they don't. They are somewhat good, as I mentioned before, only maybe 10 or 20% of the time, when they actually decide to sit and meditate at home maybe, or only when they go to the temple or to the monastery, and then only when they go to the monk and they make dana, and they think that's the time when they are good Buddhist. But what happens the rest of the time? And this Eightfold Noble Path is exactly about applying Dhamma and being a good Dhamma person in your everyday life all the time. From your thinking, from your speaking, from the way you behave in your action, and from what you do for a living, and how you earn a living, basically, in that sense. And then also still making the effort to try to practice as much as you can, and then to always keep sati again, right? And try to have sati all the time, exactly that sati, that awareness of what you're doing at every moment, why you're doing it, the purpose of it, and if it's in line with those proper values, the positive values, and not on the kilesa side, as I meant before. So, as I mentioned before, I mentioned mostly about the 4 Brahma Viharas compared to the kilesas, but of course, you can apply the 4 Brahma Viharas in everyday life at any moment. As I meant, it should be in the background of your mind, the motivation of your mind for everything that you do at any moment. And there, in the Eightfold Noble Path, it's a bit more applied to every moment, every situation of everyday life. So, and try to have that awareness of what you're doing. Are you on the negative side, kilesa, anger, emotional, or are you on the positive side with the 4 Brahma Viharas, and with good intention, good speaking, and doing good things or good deeds, and you have the awareness. And then of course try to practice samadhi ultimately, and practice samadhi, and that's the proper practice, right? At the end you have to practice anyway and make the effort to practice. And that's the point, that, as another quote says by Goenka, the system works not by magic. It's not miracle again. It's the laws of nature, and it's karma, dhamma and karma. So there's no choice with that. And anyone who begins to act in accordance with the laws of nature is sure to be free from suffering. And that's the greatest miracle you could say, but again, there's no miracle. This is law of nature, this is Dhamma. But again, many people will complain and they say, well, no, I try, to practice, I'm a good Buddhist or Dhamma person, and I still have suffering and it doesn't work for me. But they don't realize that they are not, practicing properly in accordance to the laws of nature, because they only do this actually 20% of the time. Like I said, for many people it's like that. Even in Buddhist cultures, only at a certain moment people have the right intention and they do something good, either towards the monks or the Buddhism, or in practice, in ceremony, in prayers, whatever. Just put the candle, pray, chant, whatever, patana, and then they try to do samadhi sometimes, or only when they go to the monastery, but then it's not enough, of course. you have to apply all the time, every day, and you can do it by following the Eightfold Noble Path and keeping the mind focused on the four Brahma Vihara all the time, whatever you do, with your thinking, with your intentions, and all your actions. When you speak, be mindful about your speaking, the words you use, and what's the intention behind your words. What are you trying to do to the people you interact with? And is it good? Is it good intended? So it's always like that. And that exactly is about having sati, trying to have sati all the time. Sati, samadhi, and sati, upekkha. And like it is said too, like remember that the purpose of paying attention to pain is not to heal per se, or to make it go away, but it's to become aware of its nature. And that's again the proper mindset for the practice. It's not about feeling sorry for yourself, for your ego, and then you just want to practice because you want, to stop it as a beggar, as somebody who complains and feels sorry. Understand that you are here because your karma was not so good to make you having this suffering. So now you have to make the effort to counterbalance that, to reverse that, backtrack, the whole process. It's always easy to go down gradually and over time. And after, when you realize it and people tell you, well, no, you need to make the work and the effort, proper effort to go back, then you again feel sorry like a little kid, like, oh no, oh that's so, yeah, of course, it's easy to let it happen over so long, just down, easy life, comfortable, convenience, not thinking, not caring. And then when it's time to make the real work, to go back, then again, feeling sorry is easy. And that's the same with Goenka. Goenka first heard about Vipassana with U Ba Khin, and he had very strong migraines, right? And he couldn't cure it. So somebody mentioned that, and he thought, oh, maybe if I practice Vipassana, it will cure my migraine. And when he went to talk to U Ba Khin like that, U Ba Khin said, no, I don't let you come and practice Vipassana just because you want to cure your migraine, because of your headache. I want you to practice Vipassana for the right reason again. Practice to understand your proper nature, to understand the whole Dhamma. And then maybe the migraine will go away, the headache will go away as a consequence. But understand the true nature of your existence and your suffering, like that. And then you come with the right mindset, you practice properly. And then, like I said before, and that's the point again, then let things come naturally. So if you practice properly like that, with let go, with the good intention, practice proper Dhamma, proper sati, samadhi, upekkha, then things will come naturally. But don't be like a little child, feeling sorry and then I want this. Of course, when you have the clinging like this and the big desire is suffering, and it's the opposite of Dhamma. You cannot just demand to feel better. You cannot demand to finish your suffering. You just have to practice properly with the right mindset, humbly, and develop the effort, the awareness, sati, and practice samadhi really as much as possible, and always keep the good mind, good intention, and then with time things will come naturally, the proper way, and then many benefits come like that. But you have to have the right mindset and practice the proper way, like that.